Hello, good afternoon, welcome back to Premier League Dad. This is our Game Week 19 prediction show where I'll be giving my take on the fixtures coming up over the New Year period. So first up, it's the early kickoff. It's a 2:30pm kickoff, strange kickoff time, for Leicester City against Manchester City, and I'm not quite sure what to make of this one. It feels like for weeks now, everyone's been saying, yeah, this is the game where City turn it round. This is the game where someone's going to get a hiding, someone's going to get beat 4-5-6-0, and we'll see the old City come back. But the confidence just looks like it's on the floor at the minute. I've been speaking to some City fans, friends of mine, and they just look totally bereft of ideas. Haaland looks isolated. The whole team looks leggy, lacks energy anywhere. Even players like Bernardo Silva, who's normally buzzing around the pitch, just looks flat and lacking ideas really in those final third positions. I just can't see normally anything other than a City win, and it wouldn't surprise me if they got the job done, but I don't think it's going to be. I think it's going to be close. It's going to be really, really tight. Leicester are always good for a goal at home. I believe it's 9 in the last 10 or something they've scored at home. So I think they're good for a goal, and they'll trouble City. Obviously, they went ahead at Anfield the other day and defended really well for large parts of that game, by the way. So I think they can trouble City, and I am going to go for a 1-1. I think it's going to be a draw. And the barren run continues for Pep Guardiola. That's what I would say. It wouldn't surprise me if City did get it over the line and maybe nicked it 2-1 or something, but I'd be very surprised if we saw a 3-4-5-0 City win, which in normal seasons, that's exactly what we'd be predicting. I think Leicester have got enough in the tank to cause them problems, especially with someone like Patson Daka up front who's got pace and can get in behind. So 1-1's my call for that one. So next up is Crystal Palace against Southampton, and this is another one where you'd say Palace are almost certain to pinch the points here, and something tells me this new manager bounce will start today for Southampton. I don't think they've got enough in the tank to get a win, but they defended really, really manfully against West Ham for large parts of the game. I don't think West Ham were terrific either in that one, but I do think that Palace will cause them problems, of course. I just think that with Ivan Juric coming in, he's got a reputation from his time at Torino of building really resolute, really resilient backlines. He likes, Onuachu up front. He can pump the ball long and he will hold the ball up really, really well. He's not, great in terms of scoring and contributing in that way, but he can get Southampton up the pitch, and I think that's going to be really important for them in the coming months. They will still need something in January if they've got any ambition of staying up. Selhurst Park's obviously a tough place to go for any team, but I just think this game is going to be one where Southampton can pinch something. It might be a 0-0, it might be a 1-1, but I'm going to go for a point. I think Southampton will pinch something. So next up is probably what I would consider to be the game of the game week. Everton against Nottingham Forest. Now Everton are, they've off the back of some fantastic results, you've got to say, for them anyway. Man City away, getting a point. Probably should have won that one. Arsenal away, getting a point. Chelsea at Goodison. Obviously, Goodison's a really tough place to go for any side, but Chelsea created absolutely nothing. And again, you could have said Everton might have been able to nick that one. My worry with Everton is there's just not enough goals in the team. They're one of the lowest scorers in the league. I think they're second, actually, behind Southampton. They're not great going forward. They're really, really, lacking ideas. Set pieces are the only real danger for Nottingham Forest. And the way that Murillo and Milenkovic are defending at the back, I can't see Everton causing Forest too many problems. They might be able to pinch one, but I can't see them stopping Forest from scoring. I think the form of Chris Wood, the form of Elanga, Gibbs White carrying the ball forward through midfield, they can cause Everton real problems, and I can't see Forest not scoring. So I can only see Everton scoring one. I can see Forest scoring at least one. I'm going to go for an away win here. I think Forest will pinch it 2-1. I think Sky Sports went for 1-0 to Forest. There's a lot riding on this one, and Forest, if they can go to Goodison and pick up a win, especially with all the results they've been getting lately, beating Spurs, going to Old Trafford and winning. It's another big morale-boosting win in terms of, can people start to see them seriously challenging for those top 5, top 6, maybe even top 4 positions seriously as the season goes on. So yeah, I think Forest will win that one 2-1. Next up, another one, Fulham and Bournemouth, another really difficult one to call. Fulham, great win at Stamford Bridge last week. They've got points away at Anfield. They got points off Arsenal at home. Very difficult team to beat. I think they'll open up a little bit more in this one. They'll try to get more from Bournemouth. Bournemouth are one of my favourite teams to watch at the minute. I really like Andoni Iraola's side, how they play, how they pass the ball forward and break through the lines. Still not quite sure on Evan Nilsson up front, but I think Bournemouth can cause Fulham problems. I think this one might be a high-scoring one. I'm going to go 2-2, Desmond, and I think it's going to be a draw. Another one, I'm sitting on the fence. So next up, Tottenham against Wolves, and another one where you would expect goals. Tottenham just can't keep clean sheets, especially with Van de Ven and Romero missing. I do feel for them, especially Vicario as well. Wolves, they're just looking a little bit different under Pereira, and Cunha is, again, one of my favourite players in the Premier League to watch. Fabulous player, can cause Spurs real problems. I think, again, I'm going to go for a draw. I'm sitting on the fence. I can't see Spurs winning, and I think they need to. I think the tide is just starting to turn on Ange Postecoglou. And Wolves, great win against United the other day. I think we're talking maybe a 2-2 again. 2-2, Desmond, goals galore, back it. So the 5:30pm, the late kickoff today is West Ham against the league leaders Liverpool, and I can't see any other result than Liverpool winning this one. Liverpool fans, so normally I'm not that confident of an away win. I'll be honest, I think our away form's not been fantastic. However, West Ham have been really, really poor under Lopetegui. I think the sooner they move on and get rid of him, the sooner they can start to move up the table with some consistency. They did the only great performance I've seen from West Ham this season was away at Newcastle, where they were really surprising, and they had some incredible played really good football. And they've got players that can hurt the opposition. Kudus, Bowen, they can absolutely cause Liverpool problems. They haven't got Souček for this game, which I think is going to be a big, big miss from set pieces and things like that, especially defending set pieces. So I think that Liverpool will win this one. I think they'll win it fairly comfortably. We'll go 3-1. So next up on the Monday late kickoff, 7:45, is Aston Villa against Brighton. Aston Villa will be hoping to bounce back from that performance up at Newcastle. That was a really, really big game for them. I think if they've got any ambition of getting back into the Champions League, they really need to start picking up some wins. This is a game Emery will be earmarking as one they need to get 3 points in. Brighton are winless in six, and they've played some. They've played Southampton, they've played Leicester in those 6. They played, I think, Fulham. They played some games that, if you're Brighton, you're hoping to qualify for Europe again, you would probably have earmarked those as wins. But Fabian Hürzeler, after a really good start at Brighton, it's just kind of faded for him. It's becoming a bit of a grind. They weren't terrific against Brentford in midweek either. And something tells me, I think this is a Villa win. I think Ollie Watkins coming back in for the suspended John Duran, of course. He'll have a point to prove. Ollie Watkins has been dropped for, 4 games on the spin? So yeah, I just think Aston Villa will get this one done, get this one over the line. 2-0 Villa. Another 7:45 kickoff on Monday, Ipswich v Chelsea. And Ipswich, you've got to say, they defended all right against Arsenal. Arsenal didn't really pose them too many problems at the Emirates, and I think they could do it again, because Chelsea were really poor against Everton a week prior, and obviously not great against Fulham either. They're in a little bit of a sticky patch, Chelsea. They're just not quite clicking. Cole Palmer's obviously still doing bits as you'd expect him to. Excellent player, but Jackson's not quite at the level that he was earlier on in the season. And the defence looks a little bit shaky, a little bit vulnerable. They should have lost to Everton for me. I think Everton had a couple of chances to win that one, and that was a game, especially and the Fulham game, where you would have thought Chelsea would have kicked on. That would have been 6 points for them, and they only picked up one of those two games. So they'll need to win this one at Ipswich. If they've got any ambition of staying in the title race, Chelsea need to win this one, and the pressure's entirely on them. Ipswich, of course, they'll hope, if they want to start moving up out of the relegation zone, they need to start picking up points too. And they'll take encouragement from that Arsenal performance. I really think they'll take encouragement from it, because they limited Arsenal. They didn't cause them enough problems going forward. And that's the main issue with Ipswich. For all the good play, they're just not causing... They're not hurting the opposition. They're not hurting them. So if Chelsea score, I think it's game over. But I fancy Ipswich to nick something and hold on to it. So again, I'm sitting on the fence. I'm going to go for 1-1. I fancy Ipswich to get something here. And Chelsea, they're going to have to find answers soon. Otherwise they're going to start getting dragged into the battle from the title race we were talking about not long ago. They're going to get dragged into that top 4 race if they're not careful. So 1-1, Ipswich and Chelsea. And then the 8 o'clock, again, another massive game. Man United against Newcastle. Ruben Amorim's come in, and it's just not settled for him. All of a sudden, Ruben Amorim's getting criticism from United fans. Some United fans are already talking about relegation, which isn't going to happen. But United really do need to start picking up these wins at Old Trafford. They need to start turning Old Trafford back into the fortress that it once was. It hasn't been for many years, of course, but it's a really, really big game for Ruben Amorim. He cannot afford another defeat, because after this one they go to Anfield next weekend, and then they've got Arsenal in the FA Cup. So the fixtures don't get any easier for Man United over the next few. Newcastle are banging form, and they come to Old Trafford as favourites. If you're a betting person, Newcastle away win is absolutely fantastic value. Newcastle or draw is also fantastic value. And I just think I can't see past anything other than Newcastle or draw. I actually think Newcastle away win is what we might even see as well. So I'm not going to fence it again. I'm going to go Newcastle to win. No Bruno Fernandes for Man United. They're missing some key players, and even the main starting 11 that they've got, when they start the absolute best 11, they're still not looking great. A lot of pressure's falling on Amad Diallo, but they're really struggling. There's a lot of turmoil behind the scenes, as we've seen in the press. The whole Rashford situation, Garnacho getting dropped after being a key player for United. And the midfield situation is just not right either. Kobbie Mainoo's coming in for a bit of criticism. Agate's not quite settled as they'd hoped. He's had some good moments, but he's not quite settling in. But could you expect him to settle in amongst all of that nonsense that's going on? So really difficult game for United. Really important one for them to try and pick up at least a point. I think would be a good result for him. But I fancy Newcastle to nick it. 2-1. Final game of this game week is Brentford against Arsenal. That's on New Year's Day, and Brentford is a tough place to go. It's again, you kind of liken Brentford a little bit to Selhurst Park. It's a place you don't want to go. They cause all teams at the top end of the league all sorts of problems. Their home record has been really, really good this season. I think the only team that's beaten them at the G-Tech this season is Forest, who, let's be honest, nobody wants to play Forest at the moment. And they're doing so well. And I just think they didn't cover themselves in glory away at Brighton in midweek, but then neither did Arsenal. And as good a side as Arsenal are, there's a couple of games recently that's started to cause concern. And I know from an Arsenal fan's point of view, you hear this quite a lot on whether it be on their fan channels, their social media, whether you look at Twitter and things like that, you'll see their fans talking about their lack of ability to break teams down that are playing that low block. Now, I don't expect Brentford to play the low block, and in some ways that might encourage Arsenal. It might actually play into their hands. But with no Saka, they just might struggle. and I think Brentford might cause a shock. I'm not going to go for that, though. I'm not going to go for that. Arsenal are still a very good team. From set pieces, they can be a huge threat, of course, as we've seen recently. And I do think they'll get the job done just about. I think we'll go for a 2-1 win for Arsenal. But it really, really wouldn't surprise me if we saw Brentford nick a point. Those are my predictions. Let me know in the comments below if you disagree, if you completely disagree. Let me know in the comments below. Let me know which scores you think. And thanks again for watching. Really appreciate it. See you on the next one.